This is the brand new Tudor Pelagos FXD GMT that I've had round about a day to get familiar with and wear and try on and see how it looks and feels. And I've got a couple of comments about it that I love and a couple of things that I'd change. Welcome back to the Chisholm Hunter channel. My name is Harrison, as always. And today we are finally, after a day's delay, getting hands-on with this banger. Before we start this video, if you do enjoy, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It really helps us more than you know. So since the 1950s, Tudor has been officially supplying the Marine Nationale or the French Navy. Typically speaking, they supplied them with diving watches. But now, for the first time, they're supplying them with aerial watches. The first iterations of the FXD were released in 2021, and there was a huge amount of hype around them. And part of the reason why there's a huge amount of hype around them is because of the case back. So on the case back of this specific model and the Marine Nationale models, the FXD models, you have MN, and that means Marine Nationale, and then you have 21 or 22, 23, 24, and that equates to the year in which the watches were made. Now, the reason why there was so much hype around them at the start is because everyone wanted the more limited stack that were released towards the end of the year. And I think that's partially why Tudor have chosen October to release this watch, because everyone wants the 2024 variant because there's not as many of them. Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about the kind of incarnation of this model, let's talk about the specs for a second. And the specs are, or they do feel, at least on the wrist, a little bit more chunky than you'd think. So this comes in at 42 millimeters in diameter, 52 millimeters lug to lug. So it is that little bit more of a broad, big watch. And the thickness comes in at 12.7 millimeters. So actually the thickness is quite good. But one thing that I'd point out straight away is that the strap, because it sits underneath, the NATO strap sits underneath the watch, it does push the watch off the wrist that little bit more. So actually you're probably looking at 12.9 millimeters in thickness if you do have a NATO strap on it. With that said, I had a lot of stuff to say about the strap in the previous sort of first reaction video that I did. And now that I have it on the wrist, I kind of get it. I'm growing on it. I do kind of like it. With that said, I'd still prefer a rubber strap. But on that note, please let me know what you'd prefer. I think maybe a rubber strap is just my bias. Something that I do like a lot on the strap is at the bottom, the kind of flap that you put the strap under. There's definitely a name for it, but I just can't remember. It has the Marine Nationale logo in red, blue, and white, and that pops out against that green. It does just have a really cool feel about it. It has that, you feel like you're in the army when you wear it. And I know that's really weird to say, but it kind of does. The case of this watch is made in grade 2 titanium, and I absolutely love that. I love the lightness. I love the darkened aesthetic. I love the military feel that matches so well, and this is part of the reason why the strap's growing on me, with the strap. The green strap with that darkened titanium look, because it has more of a dullness to it rather than stainless steel, and dull in a good way, by the way. It kind of matches that little bit more. Now, to top that off, you do have a grade 5 titanium plate in the back where the Marine Nationale logo sits. The bezel of this watch is in full titanium, and it is a bi-directional bezel, so it rotates both ways. Now, I have had a couple of comments on that in the last video, so that's just to confirm it does go both ways. And here's the bezel clicks. Pretty good. Something that Tudor do really well, is their teeth are extremely grippy on the bezel. Some watches, the bezel can be that bit too tough, and sometimes it is a little bit of a struggle to turn, but this is perfect engineering, if I'm honest. It's nice. The titanium bezel on this watch has a ceramic disc insert that we can see on all the other Tudor lines, or most of the other Tudor lines, including the Black Bay. The bezel itself is in black, and the dial is in this beautiful deep matte black color. Now, something that you need to really see this watch in person for, and hopefully the video gives a representation of this, is the online renders of the tanned looking numerals are not that tanned in person. This is something that I was hesitant about when I saw the watch online, but honestly, in person, it just looks so much sexier. And I think this is kind of an issue across the board. It's kind of an issue for every watch brand. The renders online never do the watches justice. You really need to get them on in person to get a full formed view of this model. The hands, or the numerals rather, the hands and numerals really, and the hour markers, they are tanned, but they're not as aggressively tanned as you would see in the renders. others. They're more of a muted down tan, and I think that makes this watch just that little bit more palatable. Also, guys, I've been getting the comment quite a lot on the Chisholm Hunter watches page, which is my Instagram page, on doing a comparison with the FXD and the FXD GMT. So if you want to see that, please let me know in the comments. On that note, guys, let's see what you guys thought about this watch on the first impressions video. So Gerard Stefan 6468 says, totally shook up my entire watch purchasing plan for 2025. This is now the only thing in my size. It's absolutely wonderful, perfectly executed. K4 Duty says, I absolutely love the look of this watch. Can't wait to check it out in AD. Definitely do, because it's totally different than it is in person. Brightened Note says, I absolutely love it. Lack of bracelet is interesting choice, but love it. Yeah, I'd agree. I honestly think that this with a bracelet or this with a rubber strap would be killer. By the way, guys, if you want to be featured in these videos, we do have a watch community family group chat on the Chisholm Hunter Watches page, and it's pretty much where watch nerds come together and discuss watch nerdery. So make sure you head there, and every time I post a video, I kind of pull some comments and see what you guys have to say. It's a great way to connect. This watch is water resistant to 200 meters, has sapphire crystal glass, and something that I realized that, again, this is a watch nerd's detail, is in the screw down crown, it's just beautifully springy. When you pull the screw down crown out, which I'm about to do at the moment, there's this beautiful spring bar smooth motion that pops it out for you and also pops it back in. It's something that, again, you just don't really see online, and that's why you need to get it on in person and try it on. Now, this watch, of course, is a GMT model, and GMT models read multiple time zones at the one time. And the GMT hand on this model is in a bright orange color that works beautifully and contrasts beautifully to the dial. It really pops out, gives it a splash of color while also remaining kind of vintage looking because of those tanned numerals and tanned kind of flares that are in this watch. Tudor are really good at making things timeless, and I think that's kind of what they've done here. They've made something that will last through the generations and never really age, because they've already made it look and feel slightly aged. It's a weird combination, but let me know if you agree. There is a date window at the 3 o'clock mark. Now, when you look at this date window in detail, something that you'll notice is that it's actually tanned as well as the hour markers. It's in the same shade of tan, if you want to call it that, as the hour markers. And I really, really like that. It actually lines up this dial wonderfully. And there's so many times when brands use tanned numerals or tanned hour markers, and the date window doesn't align with the color of the hour markers, and that just kind of throws things off a little bit. But this is perfectly in unison. Now, something that really impressed me about this watch, and I look at a lot of watches, so that's a big statement, is the lume. I was hesitant at the start. Again, online renders just didn't do it justice. There's this beautiful blue lume in the actual face of the watch, but when you get to the bezel, it's a green lume. Now, my fear was that the green lume on the bezel wouldn't be as bright as the blue lume, and it looked that little bit off balance. But actually, I was blown away at how beautifully bright this lume was. Now, when we flip this watch round, it obviously has a closed caseback, but that closed caseback conceals a pretty incredible movement, because this movement is COSC and METAS certified. The movement on this watch is the MT5652-U, and that -U basically means it's COSC and METAS certified. It has 65 hours of power and also a jumping hour GMT hand. Now, guys, the price of this watch comes in at £4,000. And actually, let me know if you disagree with me here, but I think this is pretty unbelievable. There's nowhere else in the industry that I can think of that you can get a COSC and METAS certified movement with the quality of a Tudor like this for that price. Like, literally nothing springs to mind. And I think that is unbelievable. And all that's going to do for the industry is push everyone else up, allow everyone else or force everyone else to get better for more affordable prices. And I think across the industry, you'll see a huge move into COSC and METAS certified movements because of what Tudor are doing. And it will open up COSC and METAS certified movements to everybody, not for a massive price. And I'm not saying that £4,000 isn't a big price. I just think it's, for what you're getting, it's actually pretty good. If I'm totally honest, I think this watch is a perfect example of why you should get the watch on, why you should try it on. I liked this watch prior, and I talked about it in my first impressions video, but when I actually get this watch on the wrist, it screams a lot louder to me than I thought it would. Everything actually looks better than it does online. If I had to make a couple of changes, yeah, I'd maybe change the strap. And yeah, I'd maybe bring it down to just be that little bit smaller. Maybe a 40 would do it for me. But honestly, this watch, it's a winner. I think something that would make this watch genuinely perfect is if you made the dial white. Typical me. But yeah, if you made the dial white, that'd be cool. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please consider hitting that subscribe button or follow our podcast at Into the Mind Podcast or our Instagram at Chisholm Hunter Watches or my Instagram at HB Lifelens. And I'll see you guys real soon.